My fiancé and my younger sister got together. On the day of our engagement, I overheard them confessing their love to each other, almost making me sick to my stomach. William and I had been in a 7-year long-distance relationship from sophomore year until now. Susan had been following me around, calling William brother for 7 years. In my eyes, they had always been like siblings. William treated her like a sister, but Susan's true feelings towards William were unclear. Susan is my younger sister, from a different mother. My dad and mom divorced early, and my dad, since I had some talent, doted on me. Susan was cute when she was young, with chubby cheeks and drooling, and she used to like sleeping while hugging me. But as she grew a bit older, around kindergarten age, she was no longer cute. She would occasionally put on a look of grievance, blaming me for things that were not my business. She would say things like, "Dad, if you want to hit someone, hit me. I'm so scared when you guys fight. Sister likes it, so give it to sister." I didn't mean to. Can sister forgive me? At that time, I didn't understand what manipulation was. How could such a young child have ulterior motives? But my dad's attitude towards me changed from good to bad, worsened over time, especially because my stepmother was her biological mom, and my position at home became precarious. I worked harder at studying and dancing, hoping my dad would love me more, but to no avail. My dad always thought I bullied Susan, while Susan endured silently. Did you think I wasn't wary of Susan while dating William? It was fine for the first 2 years. I was in college and she was in high school. By the time I graduated, she entered college, and with more time, she started making moves. Every weekend when William and I had a date, she would tirelessly try to contact me, claiming sisterly affection. I tried to drive her away, but she would cry and say, "Sister, do you not like me anymore? What did I do wrong? Tell me, I'll change. I'm so sad when you treat me like this." I would roll my eyes and she would turn to William for help, eyes red with tears. Each time, William would mediate, saying Susan was still young, liked following me, and let her do so. He would ask me not to be so harsh on Susan. We argued about this several times. He said I was unreasonable and shouldn't argue with a child, while I said he didn't understand anything and had no right to intervene. We almost broke up but didn't. Later, when Susan clung to me, William remained silent, letting me handle it. "Oh, I'm a dancer. My name is Sue, and I work at the Provincial Cultural and Arts Troupe, considered a pillar of the troupe. William works in IT, a programmer who had already become a project manager in a private company, young and promising, with thick hair. Everyone around us said we were a perfect match, and the number of people asking when we would have our engagement ceremony was countless. Here, before getting married, we had to have an engagement ceremony first. William and I booked a hall at a local 5-star hotel, choosing it for its duplex structure. Bright crystal chandeliers, long spiral staircase, the first floor to entertain guests, and the second floor for dressing rooms and lounges. I was touching up my makeup in the dressing room. My sister's dress looks amazing. It highlights all her strengths. Unlike me, who wears t-shirts and jeans every day. This lipstick matches her so well. Is this what they call a man killer? I'm so clumsy, I don't know how to apply makeup. Sister, can you teach me in the future? I looked at her through the mirror. Okay. She looked ecstatic. Often, I couldn't tell if she was genuinely naive or just pretending to be. After so many years, I didn't like her. It was obvious. How could she still pretend to be so close to me? "Sue, it's almost time. I'm going downstairs to be with Mom and Dad." Susan rushed out, leaving the makeup artist staring at her back in amazement. "Sue, your sister is so lively and naive. Everyone is dressed elegantly at this event, but she is wearing a t-shirt and jeans." I smiled without a response. Some things are better left unsaid to outsiders. William was late in picking me up, and no one answered the phone. I called a friend downstairs, and I was told he had already gone upstairs a while ago. Gone upstairs for a while? A woman's sixth sense is truly mysterious. At that moment, my mind was filled with thoughts of Susan. Without hesitation, I got up and walked out, swaying my dress. Next to the dressing room was a lounge, with the door slightly ajar, voices coming through it. I walked over. "William, this is the last time I'll call you brother. From now on, you'll be my brother-in-law. I feel so sad. Sister is so happy being able to marry you. You're such a good person. Sister must have saved the galaxy in her past life. Brother, what should we do?" I really like you. Susan, don't do this. Sister and I are about to have our engagement ceremony. The room fell silent. I hesitated for 2 seconds, then pushed open the door. The two of them were already on the couch, with William kissing Susan, one hand not keeping to itself under Susan's dress, their kissing looking passionate. My whole body felt frozen. This was the scene of our engagement. Did they have no shame? Sister. Susan was the first to notice me. They both scrambled to get up from the couch, one with hair resembling a bird's nest, the other with a suit so crumpled it was hard to look at. Sister, it's not what you think. Sue, let me explain. William quickly caught up, standing in front of Susan. Their strategic positions were too obvious. When did these two really start? Even if today was the tipping point, they must have flirted with each other for a long time before. I looked at Susan, trying to force a smile. It's not what I think, it's what I saw. And to William, I sneered, your words say no, but your actions are quite honest. Today's engagement ceremony doesn't need to be cancelled, just change the bride from the bride's side. William, we're done. Consider it as if I never knew you. I turned and left, tears flooding in an instant. So many years of love, easily gone. Susan followed me out, grabbed me, and fell to her knees, slapping herself in the face. Smack! A crisp sound. The room downstairs fell silent. In the vast space, only Susan's begging cries could be heard. Sister, forgive me and William this time. It wasn't on purpose, I was mentally prepared to call him brother-in-law. We didn't do anything wrong. Please believe me, please, let's proceed with your engagement properly, okay? Her words made me laugh out of anger. With such a situation, how could we proceed with the engagement? Should we ignore the elephant in the room? William stood at the door of the lounge, not moving an inch. He was watching me and Susan, but mostly Susan, with a look of pity in his eyes. My heart sank deeper and deeper. How did I not know before that you two had reached a point where you couldn't control your feelings? You two, you're quite something. Furious, I turned and ran downstairs. 9-inch high heels, a long skirt with a wide hemline. I lifted my skirt in front, but it was stepped on from behind, making me roll like a dumpling down the stairs. The pain in my body felt more real than any screams. Everyone rushed to my side. I struggled to stand up and realized my right ankle couldn't move. I'm a dancer, I knew the difference between spraining a foot and fracturing a bone. A chill ran through my heart. Quick, take me to the hospital. That was the darkest moment of my life. In one day, I lost my lover and my career. My ankle was shattered. The doctor said I needed surgery with a steel plate and I might not be able to dance again in the future. In the hospital room, several dancers from the troupe turned away, wiping tears. William blamed himself and knelt at the bedside, repeatedly promising to take care of me for a lifetime. Susan stood at the door of the ward, crying continuously, occasionally glancing at William, like a wronged little wife. I ignored them. My stepmother couldn't stand it, feeling sorry for her daughter. It wasn't your sister who pushed you down. Why are you making a fuss? Just a lost leg for you, but for her, it's a lost love. I felt nothing but ashes in my heart, not just towards William, but towards the whole family. I looked at my stepmother calmly. If William prefers her, can I break her leg for you? Since that day, there was no need for me to pretend with my stepmother. Our only interaction was when she told my dad to tell me that she had packed up all my belongings from childhood to adulthood, so I should move out. She wanted to free up my room for other uses. I nodded and handed my house key to my dad, asking him to help me move my things, so as not to take up their space. William came to see me every 2 or 3 days, and I ignored him, telling him to leave. He would silently cut fruits for me, pour water for me, saying that once I recovered, we would get our marriage certificate and he would take care of me for a lifetime. Susan, on the other hand, came every day, crying and asking for forgiveness. I told her to leave, and she would kneel down, wailing, fearing that others might not realize how wrong she felt. Whether by coincidence or something else, William had witnessed her kneeling several times. When he looked at her, there was the same look of pity as that day, but when he looked at me, he seemed hesitant, almost asking me to treat Susan better. In the end, the two of them changed from leaving one after the other to leaving together, no longer bothering to hide their feelings. The other patients started commenting about William, from originally saying, "Your boyfriend seems nice. Did you two have a fight?" To your sister's boyfriend is good, he's so caring towards you, the elder sister, what can I say? Can I say that I fulfilled this couple at the cost of one leg? I hurriedly urged them to leave. Please both of you, get lost. Instead of coming here to act, why not go on a date, roll around in bed sheets? Didn't we leave it unfinished last time? Susan, sister, please don't be like this. William and I are just friends, we didn't do anything. If you mind, we won't have any contact in the future. I rolled my eyes, stop it. For the rest of my life, please don't appear in front of me anymore. Susan started to cry again. William pulled her and left without looking back. My father put the packed items in my living room. For weaving bags in total, from clothes, books, photo frames, simple skincare products, to slippers, toothpaste, and chargers, everything was thrown randomly into the weaving bags. I picked out useful things with my cane, then called the recycling station for old clothes and books to come pick them up. My connection with that family was in the 22nd year after my parents' divorce. It was broken after they cut out everyone in the family photo except me. I transferred some money to my father, thanking him for raising me. The Cultural and Art Museum gave me a new office job. Not tiring, very leisurely. After finishing my work every day, I leaned on my cane and went to watch my former partners dance. God knows, for me, dancing is my destiny, more important than William. So, I hate Susan. If it weren't for her stepping on my dress that day, I wouldn't have fallen from upstairs at all. The envy and loneliness in my eyes were so obvious in the mirror in the practice room. Sue, come here. The deputy leader personally introduced me to a part-time job. At the Children's Art Center opened by his friend, there were 6 dance classes on weekends, hoping I could come and give some instruction. I didn't need to dance, mainly to demonstrate the movements and train the teachers if there was time. I was hesitant at first. He said, consider it a break. He said, your dancing skills are profound, it's a waste not to use them. He said, talented people can shine anywhere, not just on stage. Sue, they need you. The dance class job occupied my entire weekend, busy and fulfilling, with no time to think about other things. The innocent smiles and lively eyes of the children were life, and also redemption for me. I understood the deputy leader's good intentions. The weight that life cannot bear will eventually force you to accept it and compromise in the most appropriate way. 1 month after leaving the hospital, I discarded my cane, and as long as I didn't do strenuous exercise, my mobility was no different from a normal person. I still longed to dance, would practice basic skills, and demonstrate to the children with the right ankle not bearing weight. Occasionally, I would cautiously test the condition of my right foot. In my heart, there was always a hope. What if I could dance again? I had interactions with another man, Peter, half a year later on a weekend. Saturday night. There was no class in the dance class, and I was practicing choreography alone. I wanted to test if I could jump. Many things needed to be tried to know the results. And nearing the new year, the art center would hold a performance. I was choreographing a dance for the children. In the end, with a simple jump, I even specifically controlled the height of the jump. My right ankle still couldn't take it. I fell to the ground. Peter rushed in, half kneeling in front of me, anxiously asking how I was. We were not familiar with each other. He was just a relative of one of my students who had been picking up the child at that time. He cared more about the child's dancing than the child's mother, always asking about the child's condition after school. That day, something strange happened. When Peter rushed to me, my focus shifted from my foot to his shoes. Shoes were not allowed in the practice room, yet he was wearing shiny leather shoes. He saw me staring at his shoes, quickly took them off and held them in his hand, then smiled. His whole face relaxed. I've never seen someone like you, who's injured but still concerned about keeping the floor clean. Seems like it doesn't hurt anymore? Do you want me to take you to the hospital? My ankle was fine. The pain had eased since the initial moment. I seemed to be able to bear it. I didn't need to go to the hospital. Peter helped me change shoes at the doorway, then took my coat and bag from the shelf for me. He casually mentioned that his nephew was learning painting here on Saturday evenings, as if to explain why he was here at night, then reminded me to use my right foot less, take care of the injury, and not make the situation worse. Finally, he helped me downstairs and watched me get into a ride-hailing car, apologizing. If I didn't have to pick up the child, I would have taken you home. I didn't pay much attention to his words, and I had no intention of letting a stranger take me home, so I just thanked him and left. That evening, I chose a robot figurine online. The following week, Peter came to pick up the child again, and after asking about the child's dancing performance as usual, I took out the figurine box from my bag. "Thank you for your help last week." He was very surprised. "It was just a small favor. Do you really need to thank me like this? Are you afraid of owing favors to people? It's just a small token of my appreciation." I said, "I happened to see it when I was shopping. I didn't know if you would like it." I don't know which word resonated with him, but his mouth curled up, accepting the small box. "I like it." At that moment, several children who hadn't left yet rushed over, including his niece. "Teacher, do we have one too? We want a gift too." Their eager eyes looking at me. I smiled and took out lollipops, chocolates, and fish sausages from my bag to share with them. The children joyfully took the treats and scattered around. Peter smiled and asked, "Did I make you spend money?" I shook my head. I bought it for them in the first place. Since becoming a teacher at the organization, I often buy small snacks as extra rewards. "After receiving your gift, Sue, let me treat you to dinner." "I'm sorry, I already made plans with someone else." I never dreamed that I would be countered so quickly when saying this. Half an hour later, I sat in a nearby steakhouse, cutting the meat with knife and fork, taking small bites and putting them in my mouth, while Peter stood with the child next to my table. What a coincidence. He pointed to the couch across from me and jokingly asked, "Your company didn't show up?" I smiled calmly. He had something come up last minute. "You don't mind, right?" He gestured towards the couch across from me again. What could I say? I could only smile and say, "It's better to meet by chance than by appointment." I'm not good at talking, compared to Peter, who was more talkative and humorous. His niece Cindy had been glancing at him with strange eyes several times. I followed Cindy's gaze to him. He chuckled. "After maintaining a parental image for so long, it's hard to return to normal. The child isn't used to it." Cindy snorted through her nose. Peter showed a doting expression. Ruffled Cindy's head. Cindy rolled her eyes and snorted again. I felt a bit envious of their family atmosphere. Since my mom left my dad, I had no contact with her for many years. My dad only had my stepmother and Susan in his eyes. In the evening, I received a friend verification message. "Peter, Cindy's uncle." He added me through the business card push from Cindy's mom. That's how I learned his name. He sent a photo, the robot figurine placed on his desk next to a corner of a laptop. "Thank you, I really like it." "You're welcome." After that, Peter would occasionally like my posts on social media. Sometimes, I would return the favor by liking his posts, keeping the mutual respect alive. Through this interaction of likes, I unexpectedly discovered that he knew the leader and deputy leader of our provincial art troupe, and their relationship seemed pretty good. As for what Peter did, it wasn't apparent from his social media posts. Of course, he might have restricted certain posts from my view. Similarly, through messages, William would occasionally check in with me. "How's your foot doing?" "Much better, thank you." Many years of feelings, we couldn't be lovers, but we didn't have to be enemies. I never blocked him, and never considered doing so, because the estrangement of adults always drifts further apart. It was Susan who was posting affectionate messages and even privately messaging me to seek forgiveness. "Sister, can you forgive me?" "Sister, you're so great, many other guys like you besides William, but I only have William. I can't leave him." "Sister, which ring do you think looks better?" A photo of a string of diamond rings was sent, one of them almost identical to the engagement ring I had back then. I felt a bit suffocated. Since that incident happened, every time Susan sent me a message seeking forgiveness and showing off her relationship, I would reply with just one sentence. She would mostly say that sister was so good, and sister loved her the most. On this day, she replied, "Sister, you must be angry with what you said. I feel so sad. After all, it's the room you lived in for more than 10 years. I rolled my eyes, turned off the screen, cursed her under my breath, and looked out the window. Peter chuckled softly beside me. I turned to him, silently accusing, "You're enjoying yourself when someone else is upset. Do you know, when you roll your eyes, you look even more lively and cute than usual?" He said, "Are you driving?" I immediately retorted, wondering how even the eye rolling was so obvious. Peter didn't reply, just pursed his lips, a slight smile playing at the corner of his mouth. Cindy, sitting in the back, piped up, "Sue, my uncle wishes he had a pair of eyes on you." Peter smiled, glancing at Cindy through the rearview mirror. I turned around, pretending to be serious as I said, "Kids, don't talk nonsense." "I'm not talking nonsense. My mom said that," Cindy retorted, looking at Peter provocatively, mimicking the tone of an adult. "How old are you? Can't even chase girls properly, have to use your niece as a shield." I felt embarrassed on the spot. Peter wasn't completely at ease either. He raised his left hand resting on the window frame, rubbed his temple, and tried to lighten the awkward atmosphere with a smile. "Caught red-handed, huh?" He glanced at me and changed the subject. "Sue, don't you remember me?" "I really don't remember." It was only after Peter half reminded, half directly stated that I recalled that one year where after every performance, there would be someone sending a basket of flowers that the signature on those baskets was Peter's. Back then, we had actually met once. After one performance, he, accompanied by the troupe leader, personally invited me to perform at their company's annual meeting, promising good compensation. I declined and stated the reason directly. During that time, I had to go to my boyfriend's hometown to meet his parents. After that, neither Peter nor his flower baskets appeared again. It hit me like a thunderbolt. Back then, did this man think, "Sue, now that you're in my car, can I finally succeed in pursuing you?" Peter asked with a playful smile. The thunderbolt in my heart slowly dissipated, accompanied by a sense of relief and a touch of disappointment. I was just an ordinary woman, with desires like anyone else, yearning for someone to like me. Who am I compared to a star? I chuckled at myself, shifting my gaze outside the window. Outside, the city lights were coming on. Now, I was just a dancer who might never set foot on stage again, an administrative staff member at the provincial arts troupe, a teacher at a children's art institution. Yuri the brightest, his voice sounded again, deep and slow. As if pondering for a while, "Sue, shall we give it a try?" The enclosed space of the car was quiet. I pondered for a while and said, "Okay." Peter turned out to be a perfect boyfriend. Every morning, he would drive halfway across the city, bringing fresh flowers to pick me up for work. In the afternoon, he would pick me up after work, we'd have dinner together, and he'd drive me home. From Monday to Friday. On weekends when I worked at the art gallery, he would spend the whole day with me, either working on his laptop in the parents' rest area, occasionally glancing at the monitors, or standing in the corridor by the classrooms, sneakily watching me. Honestly, this kind of care and attention I had never experienced from William. It was sweet. The troupe leader teased after seeing him several times, "Not easy to be patient and see the moon emerge from the clouds." The deputy leader chimed in, "When's the wedding banquet?" I didn't know how to respond. My relationship with Peter was just beginning, and marriage was still a long way off. Peter, however, smoothly continued, "Thanks for the well wishes, I'll keep working hard. And you, please say a few more good words for me, help me bring Sue home sooner." The troupe leader and the deputy leader both looked at me with meaningful glances, as if saying, "You can do it." I was non-committal. "Are you really clueless, or just pretending?" the troupe leader asked in private. I was perplexed that the troupe leader had to point out that Peter was a famous wealthy bachelor, worth billions, ruthless in the business world, yet had a soft spot for me. I should seize the opportunity. I, on the other hand, hesitated. I knew he was well off, it was evident from his car, attire, and mannerisms, but I didn't realize to what extent until now. I felt undeserving and subconsciously wanted to retreat, unsure of what to do. Our relationship had hit a stalemate. I didn't want to commit, and he didn't want to step back. We were more than friends, but not yet lovers. Once, a receptionist at the Children's Art Institution chatted with me about Peter. "Peter is so handsome and elegant. He really cares about you. Every time he's here, while other parents are focused on their children, he's always watching you, his fondness written all over his face. The last time you fell, his face turned pale instantly. Before we could react, he had already rushed out, didn't even take his phone. It's true love." I remembered that incident when he rushed into the dance studio, half kneeling in front of me, first nervous, then smiling, asking if I was okay, effortlessly explaining why he was there, helping me get dressed and carrying my bag, then escorting me downstairs, but avoiding accompanying me home. So considerate. "When did you start having designs on me?" I sat in his car that night and asked with a smile, "I heard you were single." Peter looked at me and didn't shy away from the topic. I felt I couldn't miss this chance any longer. Instead of waiting for someone else to make you happy, I thought I should take a shot. "I believe I can do it better than most men." His voice grew deeper. "I was afraid you might make a wrong choice." settling for someone inferior to me, and even more afraid that I would regret it. In the background, Nordic folk music played ethereally and chilly. I looked at him. It was the most heartfelt confession I had ever heard. Peter. I'd like to go see a movie. Okay. At the movie theater, I allowed him to kiss me. Sometimes, in relationships between men and women, crossing a certain threshold just naturally leads to the next step. Peter was apparently a kissing enthusiast. Every morning, after handing me a rose, the next thing he'd do was lean in and peck my lips. After getting in the car, with my seatbelt fastened, he'd lean in for another peck. Laughing, I said, "That's enough," in public. He chuckled and touched his mouth, still not seemingly satisfied. "I've been thinking all this time, those few kisses, it just didn't feel enough. What to do?" I didn't bother responding. He continued on his own. "Sue, why do you smell so good?" Jokingly, I said, "Probably just mouthwash." He joined in the laughter. When we arrived below the Arts Troupe building, the familiar routine repeated: kisses, kisses, kisses. "You've got to control yourself, everyone you know is watching." I lightly pushed him away. "Everyone in the troupe knows I'm pursuing you." "What's there to control?" he said, embracing my waist tighter with one hand. "Besides, I've already exercised a lot of self-control." If I didn't, well, his words trailed off, his gaze dropping to my lips, my heart pounding fast, my mind filled with inappropriate yet beautiful imagery. I almost wanted to run away. A low chuckle came from behind. I never knew that being in a relationship with a mature man could be so sweet, even sweeter than a first love. With Peter, he knew exactly when to act, when not to, and gave me the utmost agency. In his words, "After taking 999 steps, I'll extend my hand on the final step. You just have to place your hand in mine." And that final step, he would still take it. As long as I didn't retreat, it would all be fine. Under the night sky, beneath a towering clock tower, Peter held me close, regret lacing his voice. "I missed you for so many years." At that point, I was already heading towards meeting my boyfriend's parents. "If you show up now, you'd be a homewrecker," I mumbled in his arms. Remember, we hadn't even reached the point of meeting each other's parents yet. It was as if I were a thorn in his side, as he held me even tighter, nose rubbing against mine, murmuring, "Apart from seeking my wife's opinions, my marriage doesn't need to concern anyone else. Whoever it is, they're just being informed. So, wife, when do you plan to marry me?" I remained silent. I decided to retract my assessment of him being a mature man. We had only taken 999 steps of those agreed upon 1,000 steps, and he was already trying to step over the last one, assuming the title of wife, without consulting me. "Are you with someone else now?" William's booming voice echoed over the phone, interrogating me without even using my name. I was taken aback. "William, we've been broken up for so long. You and Susan have a child, can't I have a boyfriend?" I shot back. "What child? Have you forgotten we're engaged? It was you hugging Susan that day, wasn't it? We broke up. We broke up on that very day. You're not suited for double dealing like this. What breakup? When did I ever agree to break up? You've been the one avoiding me all this time." Peter directly took the phone from my hand, not mincing words. "William, right? I'm Peter, Sue's current boyfriend. Please refrain from harassing my girlfriend, or I'll have to call the police." I didn't know how William reacted as Peter finished speaking, hung up, and promptly blocked William's number. I looked at him in astonishment. "That's my phone. Did you just block someone without my consent?" He smiled. "Sometimes, a girlfriend needs to listen to her boyfriend." He returned the phone to me. It was the first time I glimpsed his possessive side. William and Susan must have seen me with Peter on the same day. Because after William's call the previous day, the next day, Susan showed up at my doorstep. Outside the practice room of the art institution. When I saw her standing just half a step behind Peter, chatting as if they were just finishing up a conversation, a smile bright on her face, my heart skipped a beat. I had lost to her once before, and I was afraid she was trying to repeat history. "What are you here for?" I was full of hostility, even more so than when she used to pester me and William. Peter walked up to me, turned to look at Susan. With a raised eyebrow, as if inquiring. Susan looked full of grievances. "Sister, I miss you. It's been so long since I last saw you. Mom and Dad miss you too. When are you going back?" She looked at Peter pleadingly and stuttered, "Peter, please talk to sis for me." I couldn't swallow my anger and turned to leave. Peter caught up to me and asked if I was mad at him for talking to other women. "I'm not mad at you, I'm just uncomfortable," I sighed and said sourly, "Peter, we've just met, and now we're already brother and sister. I didn't ask her to call me sister." Peter smirked smugly. "Sue, are you jealous? How about you also call me brother?" I glared at him. He continued to coax, "If you call me brother, I guarantee no one else in the world would dare to call me that." I rolled my eyes at him, looking at his serious expression, and couldn't help but laugh. What a twisted sense of humor. Such a disgusting nickname. As it turned out, Peter indeed had a twisted sense of humor. Much later, at specific times or occasions, like when we argued or made love, this nickname was like a switch. Susan took a liking to Peter. Over the years, whenever I had something, she would look up to it, and most of the time, she would snatch it away. After that meeting, she often ran to art institutions on weekends, ostensibly to seek forgiveness from me, but in reality, she was just trying to get close to Peter. "Sue, be careful of your little sister. She's like a tea serpent. Peter has rejected her many times, but she's still swooping in," I grunted in acknowledgement. The time I spent with Peter wasn't as long as the time with William back then, but for some reason, I had confidence in him. Men of his caliber, if they wanted pretty women, could easily have them with a wave of their hand, and he didn't disappoint my confidence in him. I don't like it when others call me that. "Susan, you better call me Peter, or brother-in-law. Even though you're Sue's sister, please have some self-respect. Whether I'm good or not has nothing to do with you. I don't want Sue to misunderstand. I'm not your William, your tactics won't work on me. I can distinguish between a stone and a gem quite clearly." These words were relayed to me by the receptionist, along with some flattery. "Sue, Peter is so handsome. He talks to Susan with a commanding presence. I've never seen a man reject a woman so decisively. You should get married soon." After Susan hit a wall with Peter, she turned to me for conquest, determined not to give up. She cried in front of the parents picking up their children, asking if I was still mad at her because I was blaming her, and that's why brother-in-law was ignoring her. She said she realized her mistake, that she only had one sister, and nothing was more important than her sister. She asked how she could be forgiven? Did she have to kneel down and kowtow? She cried so hard, as if she was about to faint the next second. Many onlookers were pointing fingers. "Sue, forgive her. How can siblings hold grudges? Isn't it natural for an older sister to give in to her younger sister?" I laughed in exasperation. Who said the older sister must give in to the younger sister? What if the younger sister is a scoundrel? I looked at the crowd. The best way to deal with green tea was to accuse publicly. At my engagement ceremony, my sister went to confess her love to my fiancé, and they rolled on the couch. Caught in infidelity, my sister stepped on my skirt, causing me to tumble down the stairs and break my leg. I, a dancer, unable to perform, what did it mean? She acted aggrieved and delicate, frequently kneeling to apologize, forcing me to forgive her. Would you dare to have such a sister? I pointed at Susan. Her mother said I only lost a leg. What she lost was love. I just couldn't understand. She was the third party. What basis did she have to call it love? Even more ridiculous, while I was still in the hospital, she was going in and out with my fiancé. She asked her mother to kick me out of the house, wanting to turn my room into their lover's nursery. After several months of no contact, now that she saw I had a new boyfriend, she came back. My voice grew louder, speaking the truth in anger. "Susan, have some shame." The spectators shook their heads, seeing through Susan's deceitful tears. "Can't believe it. She's crying so pitifully." It turns out she was pretending, being a third party and pushing Sue down the stairs. Such a person deserves public condemnation. Sue didn't follow through. She had stepped too far. Did seeing Sue with a good man make her want to seduce a new brother-in-law? Shameless. The biggest difference between acquaintances and strangers is acquaintances, bound by courtesy, would only gossip behind one's back. Strangers, if they insult, it's harder to bear. So, at the engagement ceremony back then, many people looked uneasy but remained silent. Susan ran off covering her face. Peter stood firmly by my side, his face with a smirk, one hand resting on my waist. Seeing William again, it had been a full 10 months since our last meeting. He looked more haggard than ever, with deep dark circles under his eyes, cracked lips, and a cut on his chin from shaving. If not for his clean attire, well-groomed hair and shoes, and holding a bouquet of roses, I would have thought he just came out of a coal mine in Shaanxi. "Sue, let's make amends. William rushed over, handing me the roses and along with it, a jewelry box. "We're leaving first," his colleagues, who witnessed the last drama, gave me a curious lip that I nodded, wanting to make it clear to William, "William, we have no relationship anymore, please don't disturb me. The flowers and jewelry, you should give them to Susan, I have no interest in being a third party. I have a date with my boyfriend, he's coming soon." William frowned, only now realizing that I was the one he truly loved. He said he had already broken up with Susan, that she was a jinx. Ever since being with her, he had been unlucky, his colleagues ostracized him, he lost projects, nothing was going right. He said I was his lucky charm, that when we were together, everything in his work seemed to fall into place, and he hoped to start anew. He opened the jewelry box, a sparkling diamond ring. The same one prepared for our engagement, but left unused. Susan had once taunted me with this ring. "Leave this ring for someone else. I don't need it." It turned out, hearing someone speak when you no longer love them is torture. So, when Peter showed up at the company door, I almost lit up. I had only one thing to say to William: "Sorry, my boyfriend is here. If everything goes smoothly, I will marry him, so don't come looking for me anymore." Peter and William. Honestly, I had never compared them before, but at that moment, seeing both of them together, the only word in my mind was downgrade. Peter's tall figure, along with his face, exuded the word elite from both inside and out, while William, with empty eyes, looked like he hadn't slept in days. More importantly, William seemed to recognize Peter. His eyes showed hesitation, mostly disbelief, and finally stammered, "Peter." Then quickly left. This time, even I couldn't understand. "Is this your way of scaring off a rival?" Peter didn't answer my question, changing the subject. "I just heard someone say they're going to marry me. That was just a strategy, mere words, don't take it seriously." "Peter, this is not a strategy." He pulled out a jewelry box from his pocket, took out a ring, already bought, kept in his pocket all this time, "Put it on first, so we can shoo away the flies, otherwise, we'll have to do it again." I hesitated. I had been with him for less than 3 months, was it too quick to agree to marriage? What about the 999 steps we agreed on? He seemed to sense my thoughts. "Don't burden yourself. Just shooing away flies." Peter's tone was light. "Wouldn't proposing be that casual? How can you skip the red wine, roses, chocolates, followed by a lavish dinner and citywide fireworks?" I hesitated, still. Because the ring Peter gave me must not be cheap, with a diamond on it at least 3 times larger than the one from William and my engagement. "It's fake." Peter could tell I was being hesitant and slid the ring onto my finger. I laughed as I hung up the phone. Some people just think they're clever. Dancers unable to dance. Its seriousness was akin to a painter unable to hold a brush, a singer losing their voice, or a social media star losing their looks, all crucial for their survival. And for Sue, dance was not just a career, it was a dream and life itself. I visited the art troupe to see her. She stood outside the practice room, looking through the glass door at others dancing with a look that touched me. Sue wasn't a prodigy, she became our troupe's lead dancer solely through hard work. The troupe leader said, "Unfortunately, her choice in men wasn't good." I picked the Children's Art Museum. Cindy was already studying there. I took up the job of picking up and dropping off the kids, making my sister leisurely, and she taunted me while at it. "Cindy, you better support your uncle in the future, whether you get an aunt depends on you." Cindy readily agreed, and from then on, I had the opportunity to interact with Sue. Every time after school, I would ask about her child, and she never tired of answering, trying to adapt to this new life. The only worry was that Sue often secretly danced, secretly testing her injured foot. I sat in the parents' rest area, eyes fixed on her, palms sweating. The rest of the story, you all know. She fell, I helped her up, and we finally started our relationship, eating, dating, kissing. The feeling of being in love was great. Sue was sweeter and softer than I had imagined. I regret not being bolder back then. As for Susan, I declined firmly. Women like her are common in life, thinking they are young and beautiful, believing that by offering themselves, men won't refuse, thinking that conquering men means conquering the world. William not only blinded his eyes, but also clouded his judgment with lard, choosing stones over stars. I thank him. The only thing he did wrong was that since he had chosen Susan, he shouldn't have lusted after a past flame and handed the disgusting old engagement ring to Sue and me. I subtly hinted to the boss of the software company that our African branch needed people to build it up. William was sent away with a plane ticket. It took half a year for someone to operate on Susan's leg, in a scene identical to Sue's injury. However, her luck was a bit worse. She broke both her shin and ankle. My wedding with Sue was half a year later. Peter, seek likes and comments online to wish us blessings. May all the lovers in the world finally become one.